Hi, as requested, this video is going to go through everything about fractions for revision. So we'll go through the terminology for fractions first. So just to remind you, the top number is your numerator. The bottom number is your denominator. And the line separating the numbers means division. So there are three types of fractions. You have your proper fraction, where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. Improper fraction, your numerator is bigger than your denominator. And your mixed number, where you have a whole and a proper fraction together. So we're going to look at simplifying fractions. And if you notice, there's a QR code in the bottom left corner that takes you to Mathsmadeeasy, where there's in-depth explanation and worksheets should you want to try more on these questions. So showing is the fraction 15/24. To simplify it, we want to find a common factor, so a number that can go into both 15 and 24. Usually we use the highest common factor, but if you're unable to spot the highest common factor, using smaller factors is fine, just longer. So the highest common factor that can go into 15 and 24 is 3. So if we divide both the numerator and denominator by 3, 15 divided by 3 gives you 5, and 24 divided by 3 gives you 8. So 15/24 simplifies to be 5/8, and it can't go any lower. Similarly, for equivalent fractions, we're looking at what is the common factor here. We're given the fraction 4/7, and we want to know what it is equivalent to if another fraction had a numerator of 28. What would the missing denominator be? So two ways you can look at it. You can think, how do I get from 4 to 28? I need to multiply by 7. But if you're not comfortable with your 7 times tables, you can do division instead. So 28 divided by 4 gets you 7. So to find a missing denominator, we're going to have to multiply the 7 from the 4/7 by 7. So 7 times 7 gives us 49. So going from mixed numbers to improper fractions. Here we have a mixed number, 2 3/5. First we need to multiply the whole number by the denominator. So 2 times 5, and that gives us 10. We then want to add the numerator to our answer. So 10 add 3 gets us 13. The 13 is our new numerator. The denominator of the fraction always stays the same, so stays as 5. So you can see 2 3/5 as an improper fraction is written as 13/5. So going backwards, improper fractions to mixed numbers. We have 32/6. So we're going to do division. Okay, how many times can 6 go into 32? Well, it goes into it 5 whole times, which is 30, with 2 left over. The 5 is your 5 whole, and your remainder is your new numerator, and just like before, your denominator stays the same, so 6. Now don't leave it like that in the exam. You always simplify where you can. And we know 2 6 can cancel down. The highest common factor that can go into 2 and 6 is 2, which simplifies to be 5 1/3. Fractions of amounts. So 7/9 of 117. Remember, of means multiplication. So it's telling us to work out 7/9 times 117. The denominator tells us to divide, so we'll do 117 divided by 9, okay, which is 13. We then multiply our answer of 13 by the numerator, which is 7. So 13 times 7, which gives us a final answer of 91. Adding fractions. Now, when the denominator are the same, we just simply add the numerators. So in this case, if you notice, both the fractions have a denominator of 11. So we can add the numerators, 3 add 5, which gives us 8. And 8 over 11 can't simplify, so it stays as 8 over 11. The same with subtracting fractions when they have the same denominator. So in this case, they're both out of 9. So we simply subtract the numerators. 7 take away 4 gets you 3. So 3 out of 9. Now that can simplify because 3 can go into both 3 and 9. So it simplifies to be a third. Multiplying fractions is probably the easiest operation out of all the operations with fractions. You simply multiply the numerators separately and then the denominators separately as well. So 2 times 3, which is 6, 5 times 8, which is 40. So 6 out of 40. Always check if you can simplify, which in this case you can. 2 goes into both 6 and 40, which simplifies to be 3 over 20. Now we can't directly divide fractions. We have to change it to multiplication. And in order to do that, we need to invert the second fraction. So, as you notice, the division sign is changed to a multiplication sign, and 2/5 is now 5 over 2. Another way to view it is cross multiplication. So 3 times the 5 gets you 15, and 4 times the 2 is 8. Notice it's now an improper fraction, so do change it into a mixed number. So 8 goes into 15 only once with a remainder of 7. So the denominator stays the same as 8. So it's 1 whole and 7/8. Adding fractions when the denominators are different. So if you see here, one's a 4 and one's a 3. So in order to add them, we need to make the denominators the same. Now you can try and find the lowest common multiple and then find your new numerators and then add the denominators together. But the quickest way is probably just to directly multiply your two denominators together. Sometimes it does give you the lowest common multiple, but not always. In order to find the new numerators, we then cross multiply. So 1 times 3 and 4 times 2. Okay, so now we can work it out. 1 times 3 is 3, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12. We can then now add the numerators. 3 add 8 gets you 11. So our final fraction is 11 over 12. Same with subtracting fractions with different denominators. Firstly, multiply out your denominators. So 2 times 7. Cross multiply to find your new numerators. 1 times 7 and 2 times 3. Remember to keep your symbol the same, so subtraction in the center. Work it out. 1 times 7 is 7. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 7 is 14. Subtract your numerators. So 7 take away 6 leaves you with 1. And so your fraction is 1 over 14. Adding mixed numbers. Now there's two ways to look at this. You can look at the whole numbers separately and your proper fractions separately. For instance here, 1 add 2 gets you 3 wholes. And then we look at 2/5 add 2/3. Okay, and we know to find a common denominator first because 5 and 3 are different denominators. So 5 times 3 gets you the 15. And if you cross multiply 2 times 3, which is 6, 5 times 2, which is 10. Add them together, you get your 16 over 15. That is a improper fraction. So if we change 16 over 15 to a mixed number, it is 1 whole and 1 over 15. Okay, and we can combine that with the whole of 3. So that's a final answer of 4 wholes and 1/15. The other way to look at it is changing the mixed numbers into improper fractions first. So 1 whole and 2/5. Remember, to change it into an improper fraction, you just multiply the whole number by the denominator, add the numerator, that'll give you your new numerator. The denominator stays the same. So 1 whole and 2/5 is 1 times 5. Add the 2 to get you 7 over 5 because the denominator stays the same. And for 2 and 2/3, you do 2 times 3, which is 6. Add the 2 to get the new numerator of 8. And again, the 3 stays the same. Okay, so now we've got 2 improper fractions. We can add them together once we've got the same denominator. So let's multiply out the denominators. So 5 times 3 is 15. Cross multiply to get your new numerators. So 7 times 3, which is 21. 5 times 8, which is 40. And simply add your numerators now. So 21 add 40 gets you 61 over 15. It's an improper fraction, so change it into mixed number. So 15 goes into 61 4 whole times with a remainder of 1. So 4 wholes and 1/15. So it's the same concept for subtracting mixed numbers. Change them into improper fractions. So 3 and 4/5. 3 times the 5 is 15. Add the 4 gets you 19. So 19 over 5. 1 1/4. 1 times the 4 is 4. Add the 1 is 5. So 5 over 4. Once they are improper fractions, find a common denominator. So again, let's just multiply 5 and 4, which is 20. And then cross multiply to get the new numerators, which you get 76 and 25. So if you subtract 76 and 25, you have 51 over 20. And change it into a mixed number again for your final answer. So 20 goes into 51 twice with a remainder of 11. So 2 wholes and 11/20. When you're multiplying mixed numbers, it's the same concept. So just change them into improper fractions. So 2 and 3/5 would be 2 times 5, add 3, which is 13 over 5. 2 1/2 would be 2 times 2, add the 1, which is 5 over 2. Remember, multiplying fractions is the easiest operation. You multiply your numerators separately and then your denominators separately as well. So 13 times 5 and then 5 times 10, which gives you 65 over 10. Change it back into a mixed number for a final answer. So 10 goes into 65 6 whole times with a remainder of 5. So it's 6 and 5/10. But that can simplify further because 5 goes into both itself and 10, which gives you a final answer of 6 1/2. Dividing mixed numbers, we still want to change them into improper fractions. So 3 and 2/3 would be 3 times 3, which is 9. Add the 2, which is 11 over 3. Divided by 1 3/4, so 1 times 4, add the 3, so 7 over 4. Remember, we can't directly divide, so we want to change it into multiplication, and we invert the second fraction, or we can cross multiply. So 11 times 4 gives us 44, and 3 times 7 gets us 21. It's an improper fraction again, so change it into a mixed number. 21 goes into 44 twice, which is 42, with 2 left over. So our final answer is 2 wholes and 2 over 21. Fractions, decimals to percentages. So if we have a look at this fraction here, so 2/5, to get to a decimal, we need to do division. Okay, so 2 divided by 5, which gets you 0.4. Now to go from a decimal to a percentage, we simply just multiply by 100. So the 0.4 times 100 would give us 40%. To get from percentage to fractions, we make it out of 100 because everything's out of 100%. So 40 out of 100, and then simplify, which takes us back to 2/5. So just a reminder, if you want more practice on that, the QR code is on the top left. Now, moving on to topics that still involve fractions, but would only appear on the higher tier, for instance, recurring decimals to fractions. In this question, we have the recurring decimal 0.36 recurring, and we want to write it as a fraction. So we're going to use algebra. Just a reminder, 0.36 recurring, the 36 is repeating itself to infinity. So we're going to multiply by 100. 100 has 2 zeros, and we have 2 digits that are recurring, so the 3 and the 6. So when we're multiplying by 100, we move the decimal point twice to the right, so that would leave us with 36.36 recurring. Okay, so underneath, if I write the original equation, so let x be 0.36 recurring. So if I subtract the two equations, so 36.36 recurring and 0.36 recurring, the recurring part disappears, cancels out, and I'm left with just 36. Obviously, I have to subtract the left-hand side as well, so 100 take away x would give me 99x. So I've got a simple linear equation there. And to find x, we divide by 99, so 36 divided by 99. Always check if you can simplify further. So in this case, we can. And the highest common factor that can go into 36 and 99 is 9. 9 goes into 36 4 times, and 9 goes into 99 11 times. Algebraic fractions, another higher tier topic which involves fractions and algebra. So if we have a look at this question here, we're going to be adding. Same concept as adding simple fractions. We want the same denominator, so we can just do 5x times 3. To get the new numerators, we cross multiply. Okay, so I've just left everything in brackets for now. And then you can just expand the brackets and simplify where possible. So if we expand the brackets, just a reminder, the number outside the bracket tells you to multiply everything inside by it. So if we expand the first bracket, 3 times 3x is 9x, 3 times 2 is 6. So we have 9x plus 6. If we have a look at the second bracket on the numerator, 2 times 5x gives us 10x. And on the denominator, we have 3 times 5x, which is 15x. We can simplify, because on the numerator side, you can collect 9x and 10x, which gives us 19x. The 6 does not have an x, so it stays as 6. And that's our answer there. Subtracting algebraic fractions is the same. Multiply the denominators to get a common denominator. Cross multiply to get your new numerators. So if I write it out in full, looks like this. So just to analyze it again. So you have your 9 times your other denominator in brackets, so 3 plus 7x. Cross multiply to get your new numerators, so 8 times your 3 plus 7x in brackets, and then you take away your 9 and 2x in brackets. Expand your brackets, so 8 times 3 gets you 24, plus 8 times 7x, which is 56x. Take away 9 times 2x, which is minus 18x. And for your denominator, you have 9 times 3, which is 27, plus 9 times 7x, which is 63x. Simplify. So if you look at the numerators, you have 56x. Take away 18x, which you can collect together, but the 24 does not have an x, so it stays as 24. So if you do 56x, take away 18x, that gives you 38x. Your denominator, the 27 doesn't have an x, so you can't collect it together. And that's the end of the quick revision for fractions, and hope it's going to be useful for you. Thanks for watching.